Hello and welcome. I hope that you are all doing well. Thank you so much for joining me here today to talk books. And today we're talking about the two Hunger Games prequels. So, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes and Sunrise on the Reaping, both by Suzanne Collins. This is a series I really like, and I have to tell you, I didn't want to read it at first. And then back in November-ish of 2019, we were doing an event at the library where there was a list of books to choose to read from. And The Hunger Games, the original one, was one of the books on the list. And so I said to my brother, who had been trying to get me to read this for years, okay, let's do it. Let's read The Hunger Games. And we weren't into it very far when I was like, yeah, we've got to read all of these books. And it was an opportune time because it wasn't that much longer in May of 2020 when Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes came out. So I was able to go from reading the series right into reading this book. And it's something I did again in anticipation of the release of Sunrise on the Reaping. I started with The Hunger Games, read Catching Fire, read Mockingjay, read Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and then Sunrise on the Reaping. And we'll talk about them in publication order, which is my preferred method of reading. The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes is the story of the events of the 10th Hunger Games. And if you remember the original book, The Hunger Games, it was the 74th Hunger Games. So we're going back in time to almost the beginning. And in it, we will meet Lucy Gray Baird, who is District 12's female tribute. The Hunger Games this early on doesn't have the flair or the amenities of what we're used to from the 74th Hunger Games. As always, I'm going to try to avoid spoilers, so I'm going to be somewhat vague and highlight some of the differences between this book and between these books and the original trilogy. There's a lot of drama in this book, and it starts right away. The main character of The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes is an academy student and capital citizen Coriolanus Snow. And just as the Hunger Games are very different than we see later, Snow is very different too. The war just ended 10 years ago, and that means that people of this time actually remember the war. They remember the hardships that were caused by it. They remember events from it. So how are the Hunger Games different from the ones we'll come to know later? There are no stylists. There's no tribute parade. The tributes themselves are not treated very well. This is the first year, in fact, where the tributes will have mentors. And their mentors are not past victors. Their mentors are academy students, which means that Coriolanus Snow is going to be a mentor for one of the tributes. And with this tribute, the odds are definitely not in his favor. We get background on the development of the Hunger Games and a Coriolanus Snow who is struggling to determine who he is and what choices he will make. The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes adds to the lore of the world of the Hunger Games. It gives us new characters and provides background information on characters we've seen before and background information on the games. So, on to Sunrise on the Reaping. I didn't know what we were going to discover in Sunrise on the Reaping. This book focus is on the 50th Hunger Games, and if you remember from Catching Fire, that is the Hunger Games that Haymitch participated in. It's the second quarter quell, and each district must send double the tributes. So, it's going to be 48 tributes, 2 boys and 2 girls from each of the 12 districts. And we already know what happened in these games. The 50th Hunger Games themselves are more like what we saw in the later games. Each district has a mentor, and the tributes are assigned stylists. The process is much the same as it was in the original series. And we learned a lot about the 50th Hunger Games back when Katniss and Peeta watched the recap. What we now learn is about the life that Haymitch leaves behind. His family, his friends, his everyday life. And we see his Hunger Games experience through his eyes, which will change some of the things that we thought we knew. We'll see the effect that being a tribute had on him and on his life. You'll also get more background information on District 12 and the people who lived there 24 years before the original series. So you'll see people you know when they were younger, people you've heard of, and some new people as well. And this book was a real game changer for me. It changed the way I saw Haymitch, who I've always liked. It also changed my view of the Hunger Games themselves. So, are these books worth reading? Definitely. In fact, if you haven't read them yet, get started right now. So, what can you read for a similar experience? And I'm looking at books that have had the same cultural impact or a similar cultural impact as the Hunger Games. And the first I'm going to start with is the Divergent series by Veronica Roth. Another series that I really like. It's set in a dystopian society that's divided into 5 factions. Abnegation, the selfless, amity, the peaceful, candor, the honest, dauntless, the brave, and erudite, the intelligent. And when people are about to enter adulthood, they go through testing and an initiation, which determines what faction they belong in. And at Triss's initiation, she learns that she's divergent. So she has characteristics of more than one faction. And she's told to conceal it. Triss joins the Dauntless faction. But in this world, conflict is growing. And Triss uncovers a plot to destroy the Divergent. And she must decide where her priorities lie. Next is the Shatter Me series by Tahereh Mafi. And I don't have a copy of it here with me, but it is available in other branches of the library system. And it's a series of 7 books. And I'm choosing this series because it's been so very popular lately. Juliet is a 17-year-old girl whose touch will kill anyone who comes in contact with her for too long. In fact, the last time she touched someone, exactly 264 days ago, they died. And Juliet was locked up and charged with murder. Diseases cause destruction in this world, and food is difficult to find. The clouds are the wrong color, and the reestablishment says that theirs is the only way to fix things. Until they decide that Juliet might be exactly what they need, and she is faced with the decision to be a weapon or be a warrior. And there we are. I hope that you enjoyed this look at the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes and Sunrise on the Reaping, the 2 Hunger Games prequels by Suzanne Collins. And if you are wondering if they are worth the read and should you delve back into this world again, you definitely should. So go ahead and give them a read. We'll be back later in the week when we will continue our celebration of Poetry Month with another poet. And after that, we'll be back with an Explore and Create. I hope to see you then, and until then, I hope that you enjoy all that you do and all that you read. And thank you.